Okay, I figured out how to add custom textures. And, okay, am I going to deal with that right now? Well, if I draw this circle like that, and I fill it, and I go in here to textures, and go like this, in preview mode you can see the texture. So the question in an earlier video was, how do you create a custom texture? I probably should have known better, but what you do is you hit here, which says custom texture, but then the key to it all, because at that point you're like, okay, I'm stopped in my tracks, what do I do next? Well, it's in the settings. You go over to the settings, and then you kind of browse. In my case, let me see here. I'm gonna, under anime, I'll just go ahead and grab an image. Let's go backgrounds, and I'll just grab this image. Okay, and so now that image is brought in. As you can see, actually, the one thing about this I have to say is a little confusing is that I don't necessarily see that image now in the palette. So how to get it to be like a permanent part of the collection of textures, I'm not sure, because I actually I found the location in the library where where the textures are located, and I dragged one image that I wanted to use as a texture into there, and it does not, even after rebooting OpenTOONZ, it does not show up as an available texture. So not sure how to do that, but what I have figured out, happily, is how to go ahead and at least on a case-by-case basis grab an image that I want to use and have it work as a texture. And you can then add, you can rotate it. You can change the mapping. So this is something I mentioned in the previous video, is fixed mapping makes it so that if the area that is being filled moves, it's like the pattern just rolls under it. Okay, so the pattern doesn't move with the object, if you will. That's what fixed does. Automatic is more like what you would expect, whereas if I were to move this shape, the pattern would move with it. And then random, as you might guess, just kind of, I guess, I haven't tried it, but I assume it just introduces randomness in every single frame. It's like jumping around and stuff, which could be useful in some cases. So, X display, I assume that's displacement? Yes. So this is moving it on the x-axis. So the area of the image that gets chosen to use is changed as we adjust these values. And then the contrast, I can pretty well guess what that's going to do. Yeah, see. So anyway, honestly not all that crazily useful. One aspect of this I do find a little disconcerting is that once you set a texture, okay, I'm sure this is a complete stupid attack on my part, but I don't see how you actually get rid of it. Okay, if you go to custom texture, okay, but how do you change it back to just a plain old color? I am a bit mystified, because you can see I'm changing the color here, but because the texture's in place, we're sort of locked to using that texture. Settings, I don't see how to delete it. So for me, I'm just going to hit delete. Okay, it's not possible to delete numbers 0 and 1, so I'm going to hit Control C, Control V. That doesn't do me any good. So what I've got to do is actually duplicate color 0. Oh, brother, you can't paste styles there. So I'm definitely at a loss. How do we... I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this my paintbrush and paste it in, and then it still won't let me delete that. So there's definitely some stuff here that's a little confusing. I literally don't know how to say to OPENTOONZ, I've changed my mind. I don't want to use a texture. And OPENTOONZ says, I'm sorry, you chose a texture. Maybe if I choose a raster brush, what happens? Okay, that's a step in the right direction. And then I can go here. Yes, there we go. So replace the texture with a raster brush, and then go to the no raster brush setting, and now you're back to normal. So groovy. Okay. And with that, I'm going to hit the B key, and I've got my hardness and my smoothness both set in the neighborhood of 20. So that's going to give me a little bit of smoothing, and I can begin to go ahead and just ink this guy. So now, I'll tell you one thing I want to do soon. I have to say I was gonna show this. Let me see if it's up here. Yeah, Pat. One thing I was planning to do is review some things on this program, animation paper, plastic animation paper. Now the reason the screen turned black is kind of wacky, but F1, F2, F3, F4, and no, I don't want to quit. Why is it asking me if I want to quit? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's weird. Okay, so it's axiomatic that if I start recording a video for YouTube, all my software will begin to behave in ways that it literally has never before. So I've come to expect that. It's like one of my curses. You know, I don't care. I don't care. It's okay. So anyway, there's this program called, of all things, plastic animation paper. And it's actually a pretty good software for doing animation work. You know, you can, and if you look into it, you see that the development of the new version of this, because this is really old software and it's free. So let's go ahead and draw a character, and you can see kind of what you can do here. Okay, and then if I hit F6, it's going to switch to a black marker instead of a blue one. And if I hit F5, it switches it into eraser mode. So the thing that's cool about plastic animation paper is that for basic pencil tests and basic inking, it's actually a very, very complete program. And why the reason it's worthy of note is simply because it's like using my paint. It's a full screen interface kind of experience, right? As you can kind of see. And you basically, a lot of your options are just invoked with the Z key, which does this sort of pop-up menu thing, right? So I'll switch it to level 1. And of course you can come in and you can, change the brushes. So if I want a more of a pencil-y kind of brush like that, which I don't, it's available. And it is like my paint also in the sense that it's a very tactile interface. So considering that this software was created probably, I'm guessing, in the days of XP, it's quite capable software. And then if I say, well, now I want to get rid of all my blue lines, you just hit that button and all the blue lines disappear. And you can render this out as like a TIFF sequence. And then do your coloring in, like either OPENTOONZ or Krita, whatever you want to use. Okay. And in fact, one of the export options is, see, because like I can go, if I go plus, it creates these clone frames. Now, if I go in and draw something into one of them, now it turns it into a full-blown frame, right? And you can also hit the insert key, which inserts a full-blown frame, which in this case, of course, is now empty. The other thing I kind of like about it is, like, I can hit the X key. If I hit the X key, it does this wheelie-dealie where it cuts it out, and then I can hit the S key to scale it. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I hit the wrong thing. I thought it was S. What is it? Let's find out. Scale. Yeah, it's the S key. S. Why is it wanting to go into save mode? Well, as I said, maybe it's Control S. Yes, it is Control S. And then if I hit the Shift key, I think, you can stretch it and blah, blah, blah. And then you just stamp it down like that. You just click and it stamps. So now, right, so you can... So anyway, you can go a lot deeper. For some reason with today, when I hit the F4 key, it's insisting that I want to quit the program, which I assure you, friends, literally in at least 3 years of sort of fiddling around with PAP, this has never happened. Not even once. Ever. But that's what always happens. Whenever I record a video, strange things just start happening for no apparent reason. Let me click this. That did what I wanted. And it's got a layer system, so you can have various layers of animation up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so anyway, if you're looking for something that's got a sort of a full screen type of interface, real clean and simple, but with most of the capabilities to do basic pencil test animation and inking, PAP's great. And what I was going to say earlier is that when you export, you do have the, okay, that was load, not export. I think it's this one. When you save, it gives you the ability to either export the clones or not, which means if you want to, you can export just your keyframes. And then you bring them into, say, OPENTOONZ, and then you go ahead and you'd have to redo your timing. But anyway, I just thought I'd point this out because if you haven't fiddled with it, it is actually quite capable bit of software. So what made me say that in the first place is the fact that I really want to create a custom room in OPENTOONZ that is kind of sort of similar to the PAP interface. How would I do that? That's a great question. Farm. How do you create a new room? A new room right there. You just right mouse click it. I go new room, and I'm going to call this Dave for Dave's room. Okay. And now let's see what I got to do here is probably I want to do a combo viewer. Okay. And we'll lock the combo viewer in. So now we've got a nearly full screen interface. And I think the only other thing I really want is an X sheet. So there's the X sheet. And what I want to do is actually drag it all the way over. How do we do this? How do we get it to accept? The X sheet does not want to mount, if you will, to the right hand side of the screen. But maybe if the screen was not full screen, let me see. Nope. See, it'll mount at the top, but that's not actually that useful, although it would be if I was one of these kind of guys who likes a horizontal timeline. But I'm not. I don't want a horizontal timeline. I kind of like the X sheet. How do we get this to register? See, what I'm wanting it to do is say, put me beside. Put me alongside. Don't put me at the top like that. Don't put me at the Okay, it doesn't want to put me at the bottom either. The right, I would tolerate it being on the right. So this is one of OPENTOONZ idiosyncrasies. Maybe there's a way to view. I'm thinking maybe there's a way to sort of either tile or cascade the windows in your room. Is there a way? Customize the menu bar. I do not want to customize the menu bar. All I want to do is, okay, it will not. It's like,
let go, let go, let go, please, I beg you.
Is pretty much what's going on here. Look at that. You drag it in and it wants to maximize. If you drag it to another screen, it doesn't. Okay. Now the X sheet wants to be full screen. What happens if I drag the drawing back? So this would qualify as a software feature that I find utterly and completely infuriating, because we know that it's possible to insert page or room elements vertically, but here except when you can't. So there you go. There's my custom room. Okay, I'll play. We'll do it your way, OPENTOONZ. I'm going to embrace the timeline for this particular room. Just because my whole goal was nothing more than to be able to have a nearly full screen interface. So there we go. We're going to rock and roll and move forward. Okay, so now what I have to look at is it this guy? See, I'm so used to the X sheet that I'm finding. Let me go back to basics here. Okay, so I need to rename this N1 ink. Okay, so that's N1 ink. Now I'm going to go back to my Dave room, and there's N1 ink, and I do have the correct I have the correct level. So now I'm coming along here, and oh, there it is. Okay, so it is kind of important that I can see this, because we're going to have to insert a drawing here. And it says the current column is hidden. Oh, okay. How about if we don't hide it? And so I'm just putting in dots here so that OPENTOONZ creates the keyframes. Okay, cool. So now my settings, hardness and smoothness, were already established. And again, nice. For the first time ever, what we see is OPENTOONZ has drawn a ridiculous line here that, and it won't draw. Let's go back to basics and see what we have. The drawings are there, but for some reason, again, for the first time ever, it set the alpha on that color to 0. Okay. I'm going to blame that one on me. I'm going to say that was my fault. Let's go to eraser and let us correct ourselves. Okay, yeah, because believe me, folks, if you're gonna draw, and you're gonna draw with markers or pens or whatever you want to call them that have a alpha value of 0, then guess what? You're not going to be able to see your lines. But see, you knew that. I should have known that, but you already did. So there you go. But now the cool thing is, now that I've uncovered my stupid attack and compensated for it, I can go ahead and ink my... Whoa, what the heck was that? I can ink my guy. And I'm going to turn on F, Alt F actually, so that I have the fill check activated. I will say that fill check does, let me double check this. Yes, fill check definitely does degrade real-time performance a little bit. Not enough to totally wreck your day, but it is slightly less performant. I'm wondering if I turn the smoothing down, that might sort of compensate for it. Yeah, pretty much does. So I would have to say, on balance, using fill check is not as good as just turning it off and on when you want to check, right? Okay, so now we're going to have a problem. The problem is, and you knew this, Akari should not be visible. If we can see Akari, and by the way, forget my custom room, I'm just going to come back here to zoom in. If I'm really determined to have a full screen, I'll just hit the tilde key. Okay, so now we're all happy again. Alright, but I need to be in the correct level. Otherwise, things are going to go very poorly for me. Okay, so this does not require oodles and oodles of time and concentration. Just requires a reasonable amount of accuracy in my drawing. Okay, and we'll go like that for his leather. Put in a little bit of, this is where I go ahead and use some commonsensical artistry, I guess you'd say, to give it a little bit more detail that you sort of knew you were going to want. So boom, 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 boom. Whoops. Come on, Control Z. Okay. Now this is going to have a camera move, and the camera, well, the camera pans up, not down, so actually I should be able to go like that and know with supreme confidence that he is going to be entirely fillable. Alt F, yep, looks good. So now I'm going to hit the period key, which throws me forward to the next keyframe. And now, do your job, Dave. Ink that guy. Ink that guy. Ink that guy. Right? Ink him. Ink him. Ink him, I say. Boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Am I being too stupid saying boom over and over? Probably. I probably am. But gee, I'm having just so very much fun today that I like saying boom. Alt F. Yep, everything looks fillable. And we'll cross that over there. Right there. I like working at this type of scale in terms of being like zoomed in like crazy. It's definitely really nice from a tactile responsiveness standpoint. And that again is one of the reasons why I showed you PAP, is because that's what's nice about PAP, is it's easy to like zoom in and zoom out really quick, and just really keep your bearings on what you're working with in terms of your drawings. Boom, boom, boom. That needs to come across there, 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 and there. Okay. Uh-huh. Little, whoops, Control Z. Little eraser action right here. I'll just go back in and fix that. No problema. Boom, 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 boom. Remember, each of these cells are only going by for like 1/12 of a second. I think it's on 2s, I'm pretty sure. Of course, being zoomed in like this, I can't see for sure, but just knowing me and kind of how I do things, I'm pretty sure that that baby's on 2s. So let's zoom out, and I'm just going to go like that so that it's fillable. Double check all that. Yeah, looks good. Okay, and period key to go to the next drawing, and we'll just keep enjoying the pure unadulterated fun of being highly zoomed in. Okay, stop with the fill check. Actually, let me just check that real quick. Okay, cool. You know, there's a point where, especially when you know the drawings are going to go by real fast, that you do not belabor detail. You cannot belabor detail. There's a time to belabor detail, but when things are moving quickly, that's not that time. This is the time to go ahead and be sketchy, keep it loose, keep it fun. Ba-bum-bum-bum-bum. My goal is to get this done rapidly. Because it's going to look good. It's going to be fun. It's going to be moving. Boom. Okay. Now we see his legs. And we'll just do that because we know that they're going to be hidden from the camera. Okay, that's going to be filled. Okay, that's not acceptable. That's just trying to go too fast. That's just going too fast. That's not acceptable. Okay, zoom in. B. There's a thumb. Close shapes. I'm actually leaving this open right here on purpose because then I can do a fill operation one time and it'll fill very nicely. Yeah. The thing we have to remember here is that once he's standing, or I'm sorry, once we rise up out of this X sheet, this guy is subject to a camera move. We don't see the camera move in the sub X sheet because the camera move is being driven by a level outside of this sub X sheet. But frankly, what I'm doing right now is kind of emblematic of what I want to do more often, which is just get in there and do it, get her done. Okay, good. Next, actually, I probably should go back and just do a fill check on that. Looks good. Next one. Boom, boom, boom. Because, frankly, as I go into 2019 and I'm less in a mode of learning how to use my tools, which is really what I was doing in 2018 for the most part, in terms of animation. Now I'm like, okay, I know the tools. I basically can get a job done. It's time to get real practical about just getting work done. And for me, that's just a timing thing. There was a time to be fiddling with this and fiddling with that. It's actually one of the reasons why I'm not going to be messing with Blender 2.8 for a while. I'm going to wait several months before I dive back into it, because there's a time for that. There is a time for experimentation, playing around with new tools, seeing the new exciting stuff that's out and available, seeing how it works, yada yada yada. Going into 2019, we're kind of past that time. It's like, no, now it's time to hunker down and get the job done. You know, realistically, sometimes you want to be really picky about this or that. Sometimes you want to be a little more loose about this or that. Frankly, it just depends. Here, I'm not thinking about the size or shape of his legs, because it doesn't matter. The camera is not going to see it. Why do we care? We don't care. Okay. However, that's also an example of where you can get too fast, too sloppy, too careless. I don't want to do that. I'm not trying to be a chimp about having quality standards. All I'm saying is I want to be cognizant of what is required to make it look good enough. Because there's some stuff that your eye simply can't perceive. It just goes by too fast, you know, especially in animation. So, okay, boom, boom, boom. Did I get everything? No, I did not get everything. What about this arm? Okay. So one thing I'm doing here is I'm trying not to think, like if I was doing a pencil test, I would really be thinking about the anatomy. I would be thinking about the shapes and how they really look three-dimensionally. Here I'm not thinking about that. All I'm thinking about is the contours that need to be delineated, or you might say inked, in order to complete the scene. So when I draw this line, all I'm really thinking about is this line, tracing it accurately, using a little bit of common sense about additional detail that might be helpful, but basically I'm not thinking about how his body's constructed so much as I would be in the pencil test stage. Rather, my goal is to make sure that I get the lines, you know, in there that need to be in there so that he can be painted. Because guess what? He's got to be painted. Okay, I did it. Let me rise up out of this. And actually, strike that. Let me climb back down into it. And let's turn off, both in terms of the preview and the, whatever you want to call it, the rough cut mode. Alright. Okay. Very good. Okay, so now, of course, we have the problem of where the heck is Akari? Where did Akari go? So, okay, so here we are going down into the sub X sheet, and we need to turn back on the sub X sheet that included a card. So we rise up out of here and hit the L key. And let's go ahead and mask out the camera view. We're getting there, folks. I still think that we need more keys. Yeah, and that looks fine. We need more keys when he puts the vase down. I think. My opinion is it's not smooth enough. I want to see more keyframes. Valerie seems to like it. So, it's not right or wrong. It's just kind of a matter of, do you want it to look more choppy, or do you want it to look more real? I always lean towards more real. I come from the sort of comic book drawing and Disney animation sort of mentality. It clearly, in a lot of instances in this animation, okay, so I could see somebody hearing me say that and go, "Oh, come on, Disney animation, dude, you're not even close," you know. And you're right. You're right, because that's not what I'm even trying to do here. I'm trying to keep it on the simplified side. It's actually hard to force myself to do that, if the truth be known. So anyway, that's that. File, save all. And this was a video that went for 36 minutes. Stop recording. I'm going to stop recording. And I'm going to save this as... I don't know what I'm going to save it as, because I have to think back about what I just did. I guess it was inking, wasn't it? So, Inking Ninja 1. We'll call it that.